Hello, 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 hello. It's live. It's Thursday night. It's the ABC of CBD. We're on Men's Radio and we're coming to you straight from Ollie Mammon's garage. How are you guys? Thank you so much for everyone who's joined us in previous weeks. If you're new to the show, welcome to the ABC of CBD. I'm Ollie Mammon. Usually I've got a co-host by the name of Russ. Russ isn't here today. He has some more pressing, urgent matters which he has to deal with. Now, we've got an incredible guest today. I'm pretty sure I'm just going to ask producer, is the advert ready to play? Yeah?
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD. A product created by users for users. A product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
So now we've paid the rent, I can continue with the show. So yeah, like I said, welcome to the ABC of CBD. We're live on Men's Radio. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button and the follow button. Follow the station. If you're watching me on Facebook, please write little comments, and whether they're nice comments or bad comments, feel free to write whatever you want, and click the like button. If you know anyone who might be interested in this podcast, please share it with them. And yeah, thank you to everyone who supported me over the last 88 weeks. It's been so much fun creating this show for you guys. Now, our special guest today is Shiona Redmond. You guys might know her. She's the owner and founder of Grace's London. So we've called today's episode, Let's Say Grace. So this week, as Russ fails to join us due to another more pressing, important stardom-based matters, we have a fantastic guest who I might get to spend a wonderful hour with alone, which is lovely. Shiona Redmond from Grace's London, the therapeutic holistic health brand, has agreed to join us and share the story of her journey in this space. Grace's London is a combination of, well, you could say different worlds. The cannabis world, the aromatherapy world, the chakra healing world, the crystal world, and a bit more spiritual mysticism, which is kind of enrolled in it, which all comes from Shiona, which you're going to meet. She really puts her heart and soul into these products. They come from her soul. They come from a place so deep inside of her, and years of research and years of pain, emotional and physical. So you'll hear her stories then. You'll understand from where her products have come, from where her story has come. This combination of many schools of thought has enabled Miss Redmond to create the brand Grace's London, which is actually very different to many other brands in the space. Less, you call it bougie focused, more product focused, and she really does have something special she's got going on. But her journey in this space started a long time ago, from a more personal, from a more personal story, which she's also going to share today. Like many of our guests, Shiona has, you call it, been carved by this world. It's almost as if cannabis chose her, cannabis found her, cannabis was brought into her life, and she decided to pursue it more. Today, I want to discuss her journey, the inspirations behind it, the driving forces behind it, how this convergence of so many different schools of thought came to be, and how this knowledge accumulation of hers generally started. So if we can welcome on Shiona and we can get on with the show.
Amazing. Hello. Thank you so much for what an incredible introduction.
I think it's...
I've got a lot to live up to now, Oliver.
Come on, listen, I've spent enough time with you on both sides of reality in order to kind of realize exactly what your brain is. And one thing you are deep. All right. There is no shallowness to what you're doing. There is none of this. Oh, yeah, I thought it would be a good thing to do. I saw my buddies getting involved in the market, so I jumped on the bandwagon. You've got a story which has brought you here. Most other, you could call it activists, advocates, what I like to call the core foundation of the grassroots of this industry. They know you, they respect you, they appreciate you, and they know from where you've come. They know why you've come from that place, and it means something. When someone's got a strong foundation, they usually have a strong structure. When someone has when someone's built something based on something that means something to them, usually that structure is a better structure. And that's one thing, I know about you. I want all of our guests and other people out there who might not know you, I want them to kind of get that understanding of you as a person today. I think that's the aim of the episode, if possible.
Amazing. That sounds great. No, thank you so much for inviting me on the show. It's such an amazing show. And I've listened to so many of your podcasts, and I really appreciate the line of people that I'm now going to be sharing this platform with. So thank you, Oliver, honestly.
Well, to be honest with you, it's not me. Them, if it was just me talking every week for an hour, the show would not be an eighth as interesting as it's been sharing the stories of other people. Yeah, people have got to know me a little bit more, but they've really got to know, a lot of the people behind the brands in this industry, a lot of the thought leaders of this industry, especially UK-based thought leaders, and they've really got to know almost the inner workings of the community around them. But without you guys, as I say, every week, without the guests, this show is nothing. I mean, like Russ always calls himself, like every man, which is great. And I'm just the conduit, I'm just the guy who finds the stories to share. Your stories existed way before I ever saw them, way before I ever heard them, and way before I ever shared them. So it's all down to you guys as guests. And every guest I've had on this show for the last 88 weeks, every single one of you has made this show special. This is not the ABC of CBD. It's not my show. This is a community platform where, stories deserve to be shared. And I can't believe how many of you guys have enabled me to share your stories. It's 88. I mean, first of all, that's like double luck in Chinese. I mean, you can't get a better freaking number if you tried. All right. And also, I've got an amazing guest for number 88. And I just still can't believe that I've managed to find 88 people who have come and created this podcast with me. I mean,
I can imagine there's so many more out there as well. And when you get into this space, it's a very, as you said, it's all about purpose. Grace's London is definitely, we had a very purposeful drive to create the brand. But I suppose going back to how I got into cannabis, do you want me to start there? Is that okay, Oliver?
Yeah, so like that was literally going to be my first question, was how it all started, your first interaction with medical cannabis. And then that's kind of like a good starting point.
Well, I mean, I'm 37 years old now. I was 15 years old.
But you do not look a day over 18. You are so beautiful.
Thank you so much, Oliver.
Look at the blue eyes and the blonde hair. It's so lovely.
I'll definitely be coming back on here.
Welcome to the Compliment Hour with Ollie Mammon, the ABC of compliments.
No, but you're right. My first, I had no idea what CBD was when I was younger as a teenager. Didn't have a clue. All I'd heard was there was marijuana. People smoked it to get stoned, and that was it. I was 15 years old, and I knew of so-called youths in the local football pitches, rolling and smoking joints, and that's as far as my knowledge of cannabis was, My dad was terminally ill. He was quadriplegic. He suffered with something called multiple sclerosis. He had that he was diagnosed when I was about 3 years old. And we had to spend the majority of our lives learning to communicate with him through blink once for yes, twice for no. I watched him, Oliver, suffer with so much pain. We spent most of our lives in hospitals, and it was a real hard time. In 2002, when I was about 15, 16 years old, my dad was offered to be part of one of the first medical cannabis trials here in the UK. That was way back when. So I think it was 2001, early 2002. My dad,
the original GW pharmaceutical trials and stuff.
The original, one of the first ever trials. Yeah.
Can I just interject quickly? So I actually also had a friend of mine from school, which I'll get into a bit later on. And his mum started using sativas, but his mum also had MS, and it wasn't as volatile as you're describing your father's MS to be. MS is a spectrum, right? As in, it can really be like life altering, like life ending, or it can be manageable. It is.
There's so many different forms, and there's lots of different terminology that I'm not up to date with now in the world of MS. But something my dad had, it was called rapid MS. So he progressively just got worse. So it just started as shakes. Then he lost the use of his arms. Then he went to a wheelchair. Then he lost the use of just all limbs, and then became quadriplegic. So it was a really, really, really long journey. And I come from a long family of carers, doctors. My mum's an NHS nurse. We're very much we was very much involved in that medical part of his life. But when the Sativex trial came up, it's not something he wanted to do. He'd illegally smoked it in the past, and it had helped relax his muscles. But because he'd lost the sense of using his muscles to actually pull on the joint, it just didn't work for him. So he was unable to even smoke cannabis. When we told him about the trial and what his doctor was offering and did he want to be part of it, He just didn't want to. He didn't believe how cannabis could be in a spray that he'd put under his tongue. There just wasn't enough education around it. And I don't think they really explained it to him in the best way. So he
it's
just
a molecular change, isn't it? It's,
It
it's a
really
molecular change. It's a social change. It's one of these things which, like, how are you going to believe it as well when, it's one of those things. It's like when something as simple as cannabis is suggested as the cure, and it's been demonized to you for so many years, it's very hard to just switch. Be like, yeah, you know what, that's legit. It'll be like if someone turned around to you tomorrow and been like, crack cocaine will cure your headache. You're not going to be like, okay. But if there was trials in 16 years time, you'd be like, I should have tried that 16 years ago. Maybe I wouldn't have had. But at the end of the day, like something that drastic, you're never gonna, because that's the way it was portrayed. Drugs are drugs. And I can only imagine it being so daunting for someone who's already tried every medication. It's not helped. He's seen his system, his situation get progressively worse. And I can see him just being like, what's the point? Do you know what I mean? And also that little bit of fear, that little bit of what the older generation have, which is that, like, should I be like, is this really a smart idea? Because, people were told that, cannabis rots your brain. Cannabis causes psychosis. Cannabis makes you go insane. And, your poor father might have had all of these thoughts going in his mind. Do I really need this on top of my ailment as well? Do that could also be.
I think he'd got to the point as well, Oliver, that he'd been a trial dummy guinea pig for so many different things for so many years, because he really was. He's gone down in the medical history books for things that have happened to him, operating wise, different consultants that have looked at my dad and the way that his MS did progressively just worsen. So he was very much at the very, very end spectrum of MS. I think he just had enough. But what it did was just kick-started this whole thing in my brain of, I was running around to youth club going, guys, you'll never guess what? The doctors want to give my dad cannabis, like feeling really cool that dad's getting offered cannabis, because all I knew it was this, all the cool kids were smoking cannabis in the football pitches. That's all I kind of knew. It was then, it kind of went away from me. Looking after my dad was a full-time job. I then had 2 children, so I had 2 pregnancies as well. My dad had 24/7 carers living with him in his house. So that's how unwell he was. It was a whole big corporation having to keep my dad well. So cannabis just kept being pushed to the back. I'd research it every now and again. He'd go into hospital. I'd have to put it on the back burner. I felt it was just in and out of cannabis research for probably about 10 years, Oliver. And then, as you know, not a lot of the information was coming from the UK, this country. I was having to look at Israel, Germany. There was a lot of stuff going on in America with the Stanley brothers and CBD and things happening. So it was only
what happens is it was only molecules of information as well. So you've got like small pockets of like 3 people coming out with an idea, and then it's whether or not you listen to that idea or not. There are always people throwing out ideas, but it's whether or not you can see value behind it. And I saw that as well, like the dissemination of information, you can call it, between 2000 and 2015 was very slow. The dissemination of information between 2015 and now has been a lot more rapid. But the last 3 years, it's been like information overload. It's like every bit of information from the last 20 years has almost just started to show its face. And it's a lot easier to find. It really is. It wasn't the same world. Even 7, 8 years ago when I started in this industry, definitely wasn't the same world. It wasn't. Like there wasn't there wasn't the same. There just wasn't the same knowledge out there for us to even learn from. What I call hidden knowledge, the experiences of individuals which they're happy to share. A lot of like that wasn't there to be shared. A lot of people were scared to talk about their medical interactions. Like the Cali Blackwells, etc., who were literally breaking laws and could have had their children taken away from them, but they saved their kids' lives. They couldn't speak until later on down the line. And you have a lot of that. There's a lot of hushing. And I feel like now there's a lot of vocalizing, and people are very proud to turn around and be like, I've been using medical cannabis for 20 years and it's saved my life. I was using medical cannabis. My kids, I know I hid it from them because I didn't want to, negatively influence them. I've been suffering in silence for X amount of time, but I can't live without it. I would be dead without it. And all of those stories are starting to come out now, which all add to this pool of research. Another thing is MS must have been relatively new 25 years ago, right?
It was. And to the extent that my dad had it, they just didn't know enough about it. They couldn't tell us what way it was going to go. So when you speak about people like Callie, who's actually a dear friend of mine as well, what an amazing woman. It was people like Callie that gave me the strength to go, I need to speak up. I've been messing around. I've imported CBD from America. I've been messing around on my kitchen table. I'm creating formulas and giving it to my nan who suffers with arthritis. I'm giving it to a friend of mine who suffers with fibro. All these different kind of ailments. No business, just to see. A lot of my research, Ollie, was in THC. As I said, it was more full spectrum cannabis plants, looking at the female plants, not the male plants that are used for industrial hemp a lot in this country. So my whole world of cannabis was just opened up when I started to realize that THC is cannabinoids. Then we have CBD. We've got over 100 major cannabinoids. And then you move on, you find out you've got cannabinoid receptors inside your body, and on your skin
you've got cannabinoid
surface
synthesizers in your body, and you've got like all of the same cells which exist outside and inside. The endocannabinoids and the phytocannabinoids are exactly, they're mirrors of each other.
Mind blowing. And
blows your mind, right? And you turn around and say something like, would you ever try CBD? And they're like, no, it's already inside of you, whether you want it or not. It's already there.
And I love this because we're musicians as well. My partner and Jay that started Grace's London, and one of the studies that came out a few years ago, when they measured cannabinoid levels in patients' blood, they made them go off and do some physical activity like football. Another person had to go off and sing, and someone else had to do something else. But what came out of this study is that the person that sung and did singing was the person who made their most own cannabinoids, their own endocannabinoids. This is when we sing. So this just blew my mind as well, being a singer and a musician. I was like, I can create CBD formulas and I can make my own CBD. To do what? To create balance, Someone like myself who's dealing with high function anxiety, chronic post-traumatic stress disorder. I have a womb disease. I have an overactive thyroid. I stupidly, when starting my formulas, I was too busy giving it out to everyone else. So I wasn't really trying it on myself for all my own ailments and all my own things. It was only when you're 2 years in, you've got my mother who's an NHS nurse going, Shiona, would you just try the products on your pain? Would you try it for this? Would you try it for that? And I eventually did. And I was blown away again that something as so easy as a skincare formula that I've made to put onto my skin has now interacted with pain receptors, which is now dulling my pain that I'm experiencing from my chronic, terrible wound disease. So I just felt cheated in life. I was like, I've imported an extract. I've mixed it up with some organic shea butter and some other organic ingredients. And I've got 50 people around me right now screaming at me saying, we need some more balm. We need some more oil.
That's how it starts, right? So I started a little bit differently from you. So I actually tried CBD I was maybe like 21. The first time I smoked cannabis was like when I was 15. The first time I tried CBD, I was like 21, 22. Someone gave me a bottle, one of these unbranded bottles. Like, what is it? Because it's CBD. I was like, what the fuck is CBD? They go, so there's THC and there's CBD. There's like, the two cannabinoids. I was like, what do you mean the two? There are two cannabinoids. There's only two. So I was like, all right, cool, I'll try it. Like it's like to see what it does for you. And I felt it. Like I felt all of the benefits. Tasted like absolute garbage. But then my next few years was the search. Every so often I would see a mate, I was like, any more of that CBD? And he was like, no, we can't get any more. I was like, why not? You guys just can't get any more. I was like, oh, interesting. But it was playing in my mind. And a few years later, it kind of came up. Now, the first time I got an extract into my hand, I was like 24 years old. The first time I got like 50 grams of isolated CBD. And I started making products just because I wanted to try for me. So I made myself some drops. They weren't strong enough. I made myself some stronger drops. They worked well. And I was like, you know what? Let's look into making a balm. And I made a balm, and I used to play basketball. And one day I came up from basketball, put it on myself, and I woke up the next day and I had no stiffness. And I was like, yeah, it can't be. So I played on the 2 days later.
It's like a placebo effect. So many people think this. Yeah.
Played 2 days later. Didn't what's it called? I didn't use it. Felt ridiculously painful. Played 3 days after that. Used it again. No pain. And I was like, there's definitely something wrong here. So now I thought, you know what? Let's go 1 week on, 1 week off. Because maybe the middle one was just tough. So I went 1 week on, like no balm, no CBD for post-sport recovery. So much pain. Like every game got harder and harder. The next week, went to do it, said, going to use CBD every single day. It was like the easiest week of games I've ever played in my life. The next week, none. Hardest, back to being hard again. I realized that it did help with my post-sport recovery. It helped with my muscle weight. So then I got a phone call from my business partner, Nathan, my business partner now. He was a friend of mine at the time. And I was like, bro, I've got something for you to try. I was like, what do you mean? I was like, I've got what's for you to try. And like, that's how it all kind of really started. It was just, like for me, it was like me outwards. Like most of my products, I mean, I try on myself, unless it's something like a suppository I've made specifically for someone. It's not nice to do that. But most products, I will like generally try on myself first, especially if I am suffering in one capacity or another with an ailment that can be seen to be similar to an ailment. But I understand that we are almost the guinea pigs of this industry, you know, like, and also none of us have died, which has got to mean something, right?
Oh, 100. I went to the, it's got to definitely mean something. And when I had to, you know, when I took, my father unfortunately passed in 2014, and it was only when he passed away that I was able to gather all of this research that I've been doing for the last 10 years. Right, Shiona, get your head stuck in. What is going on here? Is there something here that can help people with MS? Because I'll be damned if I'd have to watch anyone go through what we had to go through, or what my dad had to go through, if there's something there that can help their daily quality of life. But I had to go straight to my strict Catholic Irish grandmother. I thought, if I can get cannabis past her, if I can get her to put it on her skin, this will filter down to everyone. I can get anyone to try this. This is how I felt, because she's like the matriarch. I thought, if she says no, it's a no-go, you know? And she was dealing with chronic arthritis, osteoporosis. She had so many different things going on. So I didn't tell her what it was, because I thought, I haven't got all day to explain to her what CBD was. I was still really learning myself that complex.
And also, you didn't want to get in a conversation with your grandma where your grandma can find a hole in your argument and then you don't have it. So it's better off just to say nothing and say, look, give it a try, see what happens. You know, play dumb. Yeah.
I didn't mention the C word, didn't mention cannabis. So I said to her, look, I've made this, I've always been making my own products with essential oils and aromatherapy. I'm one of those people that have just been loving to be using raw, fresh herbs and making products since I was probably about 7 or 8, Oliver.
So I was about to say, so I mentioned that in my introduction about the fact that, you know, like Grace's London really is this combination of different worlds, the cannabis world, the aromatherapy world, you know, like the mystic spiritualism, you know, that spiritual mysticism. I call it spiritual mysticism because I don't really know how else to categorize that world.
I'll
you know,
tell
like,
you.
like chakras, saging, and stones. I don't really know what else to say, except I think spiritual mysticism is a really nice way of categorizing it.
It is a lovely way. It is a lovely way. At Grace's London, we like to see it as a multi-dimensional look at beauty. Okay, so one of our taglines at Grace's London is "Beauty runs deep." What do I mean by that? Well, whatever we're putting on our skin can have a detrimental effect on our health, on our overall well-being. So when I started to look into how my dad suffered with MS, why have I got Womb's disease? Why have I got such? I had incredible.
When you say a womb disease, do you mind?
I have something called adenomyosis. So it's like a form of endometriosis.
Okay, fine.
But we're talking severe chronic pain, passing out from the pain every month. You know, it was just really, really full on. And it's part of the endocrine system, which my whole endocrine system seems to be being attacked. We've got my thyroid, I have fibroids on my ovaries, and then on my womb, I have this adenomyosis. So I was, sorry, I've completely gone off point now where I was, Oliver. Sorry about that.
Sorry, no, it's my fault. I do that. I distract people and then leave them to kind of talk their way out of the situation. It's kind of,
love it. It's okay.
You're talking about the
multi-dimensional aspect. Yes. So what beauty runs deep, and it was really in 2016 trying to get people to use a CBD rollable, because we specialize in skincare products. There's a lot of CBD drops out there on the market. I was looking at ingesting CBD. I was ingesting CBD. I was making my own drops. I was doing things. But there's something about the skin that I still think to this day, the CBD industry doesn't realize the extent of how much going through the skin is incredible.
The biggest mistake of the CBD industry is they focused only on drops. They focus only on drops and some vapes. And the topical application has gone down. It seems
to be an add-on. The balm seems to be an add-on.
But it's also, what I've realized as well is people have stopped looking at like functional topical cannabidology, and they started looking at cannabis vanity. So it's now, I want a hyaluronic moisturizer with CBD that will sell more than an arthritis paint balm. And the grandma who suffers from arthritis is more likely to buy that cream to rub on her face than to buy that balm to rub on her pain. And that's what I don't understand. There's been a serious miseducation over the last 2 years into this glorification of CBD, but it shouldn't be. It's functional. It shouldn't be fashionable. It should be functional.
And this is why we done the rollable.
I've always called you a functional cannabidologist, not to your face, but behind your back. And when what's it called? Like every time I see your product, I'm like, this is a functional product. You're thinking about the end consumer. Yes, it's beautiful. And yes, it looks great on the shelf. And Grace's, it really freaking does. Their branding's amazing. Presentation's amazing. The fact that the roller ball itself is made out of like specific crystals and whatever, it's incredibly thought about product. But they're still functional. It's still designed to work. It's not designed to be a novelty, and it's not designed to be vanity.
And I think this is why it was really important when we were thinking about the product. We didn't start with a balm. We started with a CBD roll-on. And hear me out why. What I needed to do is, after doing my trial and error of using the CBD on myself, my friends and family using it, we had a focus group in the end of about 78 to 80 people that I can still now go to 6-7 years later. And there are people, they will test and trial products and report back to me. So that was incredibly important. But what it is that I needed people to use it as a face oil. What's something that you do every day? Now, I knew that all the women around me and some men, they have to wash their face every morning and they like to use a face product. So what I thought is, if I can get it into a rollable where you can use it as a face oil, you can use it on any part of your body, you can use it as an aromatherapy tool. Because Oliver, through my research, I knew the skin is one organ. The skin is the largest organ of the body. I don't care where they put that rollable. If they've got really bad acne and they don't want to roll it on their face, don't. Roll it on the back of your neck, because we're still engaging and igniting with your endocannabinoid system, which is going to try and create balance. So I didn't have time to try and sell CBD drops to my strict Irish Catholic family that were not touching cannabis. And that was that. So I thought skincare is going to be a great way to go through. And then, to be honest, Oliver, when you look at the pharmaceuticals, all medicine is available topically. I think this is something that everybody's forgotten. You know, there's so many people out there that can't ingest certain types of medicines. So I really wanted to. Grace's London is a skincare company.
You get to have this, like you said, this multi-directional effect. Your education is more similar to my education. I've always been a lot more topically focused than edibly focused. I'm a big fan of topicals. I love them. I think it's such a great form of application. Another good thing about your rollables, they're completely vegan, which means that everyone can use it.
Yes.
The biggest issue in our industry is that, once again, there's very little vegan-friendly products. So I feel like the vegans have been almost ostracized by the cannabis industry, because everything's a beeswax-based balm, because most people operate quite simple, simple design products. And it's that greater idea of, actual function, which you have thought about, and also the user experience, which you've thought about, because anyone can use it for anywhere. It's not something which many people think about. Also, unfortunately, in our industry, the detachment between sales and innovation is quite far. So you actually being able to be really close to people who are using the product and being able to almost innovate and curate products for actual people means that innovation is right up close with the people and sales is right up close with the people. You've almost got a warmer, like a warmer, more welcoming, way of designing, if you know what I mean, as opposed to just dreaming up and sending it out there.
Well, I suppose what was really, really important for me and the foundations of our business is the formula. And what I learned in my research was that these terpenoids and flavonoids from different essential oils, which I've been learning about my whole life. I mean, I was that child when I was little in Ireland. I was taught, you see the stinging nettle, when you sting yourself, look for the dock leaf sitting right next door. Okay, so you've got the cause of your inflammation and pain from the stinging nettle, and right next door, the dock leaf grows next to the stinging nettle. And you can see this all throughout nature. Yeah. So from a very young age, I was taught from my Irish family that they used plants, essential oils, herbs, spices. There was something for anything and everything, Oliver. Whatever you brought to them. Oh, you need a bit of milk thistle. Oh, you need a bit of manuka honey. Oh, you need a bit of whatever it may be. So when I learned about these terpenoids, which are found in essential oils. And, we look at lavender with linalool, or linalool is the thing for pain. That's one of the main terpenoids for pain. And I just went down a 5-year journey of like this huge rabbit hole.
That's another mistake which people make. Everyone thinks that linalool is a sedative. It's not. It's a pain reliever. So there's this narrative. Yeah, we've added linalool to your sleep drops. Linalool is not for sleep. Linalool is for pain. It's a pain reliever. It's an analgesic. And there's a lot of this miscommunication. And what happens in our industry is brands will fixate on one idea. Lavender helps you sleep. Actually, there are other compounds within lavender which help you to sleep. There are other sedative compounds in there.
There's lots of different, and for instance, our original formula, our first blend that I curated was lavender and lemongrass together. You'd see lemongrass as a really refreshing, revitalizing blend, and people see lavender as a real sleepy blend. But what I am interested in
is pain.
Is pain, but that all-round igniting the endocannabinoid system. I know we need I know we need quite a lot of THC.
Swear. You can use the S word. S word's not swearing. It's fine.
Okay. I know that THC is the main key into that receptor system. Okay. So it was very important for me to look at the synergistic effect of broad spectrum cannabinoids, your CBD, your CBN, your CBC, your CBL. And when I realized that I could get these terpenoids, so I could use lavender by looking at their terpenoid profile and matching that with our CBD extracts. And then I bring in rosemary for something else. I think every formula that we work on, Oliver, we try to make it a better version of we always just try to better it, you know?
And then we get to have then we get to have fun, because then we get to start using, let's say, rosemary is not just rosemary. There's rosemary cineole, there's rosemary camphene, which both have different effects. Then so you want to use lavender. You've got true lavender, French lavender, lavandin.
Where is it being grown? It's all of these things,
and the soil and the actual makeup. I mean, it's. And once you start looking, it's almost like opening a book, which has got another book inside of it, which has got another book inside of it, and it's a never-ending journey.
Every day, 16 years I've been looking into cannabis, and I'm still learning every day. Honestly,
you know what happens the day you stop learning, right?
Yeah, I'll be dead.
Yeah, that's it. The day you stop learning is the day you die. So I've got this saying, learn something new every day, because every day I learn something new, and every day I'm like, oh shit, didn't know that.
It's
add
amazing.
that to the notes, add that to the list. You know, got basically my own encyclopedia of knowledge, which I've generated from other people's encyclopedias of knowledge, but it's what you have to do, right?
We've got to learn. We can't better ourselves unless we learn and we dig deep into this. So it was really mind-blowing when I found out that we made our own cannabinoids, when I found out that these terpenoids are found in cannabis extracts. I was like, what? So that blew my mind. I then done a real dig deep, looking at favorite strains of cannabis in America or Israel. What were they looking at medicinally? So I could see the breakdown of all the molecules that are in that extract. And then I was like, this is the fun part. I know the terpenoids in lavender. I know the terpenoids and flavonoids in rosemary. I know the ones in lemongrass. If I could just get these power of three. So we use 3 powerful essential oils in each blend. I just love the power of 3. Okay. I have intention behind everything I do. So with these 3 essential oils, I'm putting them together to create a big synergy that's just going to really ignite with the endocannabinoid system on topical application. We formulated with isolate for many years before I moved over to the full spectrum and broad spectrum extracts. And Oliver, if I'm honest, I'm not I appreciate anybody that uses the CBD isolate, but when it comes to skincare, it does not work for us. We've done 2 years of working with isolate extracts, adding our essential oils and not having the same effect. So this is why it was extremely important for us in 2016 to get our main focus feedback group, you know.
Listen, at the end of the day, every cannabinoid's got its place. Actually, every ingredient on the face of the earth has its place, has its correct place. Now, let's say, for example, you're a policeman. That isolate is perfect. But if you let's say you're an actual sufferer, I would always say go broad spectrum. Why? Because those other cannabinoids, the entourage effect, and this whole conversation of CBD and cannabinoids and other cannabinoids do great things. Cannabinoids and terpenoids do great things. Cannabinoids and other functional active ingredients which can activate receptors or increase bioavailability, provide some form of calming sensory effects, as well as like pain relief, as well as the cannabinoids doing their bit. So anything that's in there to help is all of this CBD and conversation, these cannabinoids and your logic, which you're applying to, the power of 3 and then the multitude of different compounds within these 3 essential oils anyway. It's all part of the same logic. The more you have in there, the more there is to work together. It's like the more builders you have, the quicker you build a house.
That's what I'm thinking. I want a multifunctional product. In the first 2 years of us making the products, I had people coming to me going, wow, use the oil. I've used it for my chilblains. I didn't even know what chilblains was. Apparently it's a horrific skincare blistering type of thing. But this is my point. It was our customers coming to me telling me, did you know I used that on my burn? I burnt myself with the iron. And I put your rollerball on, and
you're like, you shouldn't fucking do that. You should not have done. Why would you do that? And you're sitting there like, oh my god, and you're expecting. I've had a horrible reaction. It's
scary because you are, our first thing, we set up a market stall in Camden in 2017. I always say that we was probably the first UK company to bring legal cannabis to Camden. If anyone knows Camden in London, it's known for the illegal stuff. So
there weren't many before.
There wasn't many before, and that was crazy. But I would roll people, I'd go, come over here. Like, do you have an ailment? Do you have a pain? Have you got a skin issue? Don't buy the product. Here, just try it. Go off. I tell you, 9 times out of 10, within an hour, they'd be back at the stall going, what is in that oil? Because that pain I had on my shoulder has gone. All I've done is walked a lap of Camden. And I got to the point where, wow, this is full on. But then, of course, you have the whole, we had cosmetic safety assessments for all our product formulas. My background lies in HR, employment law. I'm an ISO auditor. So I was like, if I'm doing this business, I'm going to cross my T's and dot my I's. It's going to be done properly. So when you look and you have your safety assessments to say it's okay for human consumption, they can use my lovely CBD roll-ons that I formulated, but don't you dare tell them it helps for pain. That's when you go, right, okay, this is incredible. I've got some oil. I've got all of these people filtering back to me how it's helping in their daily quality of life. And I'm not allowed to tell anyone about that. I can't spread that. I can't say anything. That's the worst thing about
this industry. We're not allowed to talk about it, right?
We're not allowed to talk about it. And it just, that really emotionally,
we're allowed to talk about it. We're not allowed to talk about it in order to sell the product. So this conversation is fully legal. Right? We're allowed to talk about it.
I'm a professional now.
About it. Do you know what I mean?
I'm a professional now, Oliver. But back in 2016, 17, 18, I was on tenterhooks. It's like, I really think that could help that person. But, I can't say that because it was just a really difficult industry and arena to find myself in, And
everyone was terrified. There also weren't that many of us. So originally when we first started, there were like 20 of us. I can actually name the first 20 companies who were around. There weren't that many. And then now there's like 2,000. So now I feel like we're all a little bit, there's a lot more laws and legislation. People are still terrified, but you can kind of hide in between the cracks. Originally, there weren't that many of us. So it wasn't easy to hide. And what we were terrified is we're going to be the ones who are going to get made an example of. And in reality, CBD was new. So we were still thinking, maybe there's a law that we don't know about. That's what's always going through my mind. Like, imagine if there's something that I don't know about. Imagine I'm actually breaking the law here and there is something written from 55,000 years ago and I don't know about it and no one's telling me, might get screwed. And that was always at first, is this gray? Is it black? Is it white? I don't really know where this sits.
It was an unnerving place to be. I remember doing my first product to Earth in 2017. I was like, am I going to get arrested? Is this okay? Is it okay what I'm selling? But yes, you had to be your own lawyer. You really did in those early days. And, we talk about the CBD industry. I actually don't like that word. I've always pioneered that CBD will go under cosmetics. CBD will go into food supplement. We don't want a CBD industry. We just want it to be recognized and accepted like Manuka honey is and lavender and everything else that's out there. The amount of pharmaceutical drugs that are 80% based in plant material. So back in 2016, cannabis wasn't legal medicinally either. So we had that whole other thing as well, with just that it was really, this is big, scary cannabis, and we better be careful what we say and where we look and what we do. It was a very unnerving time, but I'm glad that we've pushed through, and I'm, happy to say where the industry is now at this point. But going back to a multidimensional aspect of Grace's London, it's organic ingredients. Why am I going to spend all my love, time, energy, and money researching and creating this amazing formula, and I'm not going to use organic ingredients? The chemical preservatives, the synthetics, what's gone into the soil where it's been grown. And we're not just talking cannabis, we're talking everything. The lavender, the lemongrass, it's all of our ingredients. And after my dad passed and I was looking at research as to how MS could have happened or how all the illnesses I've got could have happened. It's all in food, drink, environment, cosmetics, household products. And skincare was really the easiest one I felt, Oliver, that I could take over and really have a great experience with that.
It's a lot easier. It's a lot easier to control what you put on your skin than it is to control what you put in your body. I know, controlling absolutely is like how was this tomato grown is a lot harder. Do you know what I mean? To control every aspect of your diet than it is to control every aspect of your beauty regime. Yeah. And I believe that is call it a common theme in our world at the moment. There is this simplification of beauty regimes. You know, like
Yeah.
I see less and less and less products on the shelves of all of my friends when I go to their houses. I see less products on the shelves of my on my girlfriend's shelf. She's almost narrowing it down to a core functional group of products which she understands and knows.
My kind of woman. This is what we want.
Because also I was having a conversation with someone recently and they were talking about actually it was Jamie's mum. I was chatting with Jamie's mum. Yeah, I was chatting with Joe. Love Joe. Joe Woods, legend. Joe Woods Organic. She's like a pioneer of this
incredible.
world.
Joe's got her own organic line as well.
Exactly. Joe Woods Organic. It was like she's
like
one of the starting founding thinkers of this industry, you know, in terms of not the cannabis industry, but in terms of like this natural well-being, like holistic industry.
100%.
And she said to me the same thing. She goes, since the 90s, she doesn't understand how girls have been covering themselves in these, you could call it, ingredients which are literally designed to destroy them. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, you know how many, like, you know, you have girls who are 12 years old who have grown breasts, and girls who are 12 years old usually never used to grow it because they're using estrogenic, high-based antiperspirants and deodorants and perfumes and body lotions. They are slathering themselves up. And what happens is they're getting boosts of estrogen. Why? Because everything passes through the skin, everything absorbs, and it stays there. I was like, what do you mean? She goes, well, when you eat something, it passes through digestion destroys it. I was like, yeah. She goes, when you put it on your skin, it's a much slower process for that to get absorbed into your skin. It's also a much slower process for your blood to then absorb it through your skin into your bloodstream and then filter it out. Once it does get filtered out, though, it's getting filtered out through your bloodstream. It's not getting filtered out through your stomach. Your stomach is designed to get rid of toxins. Your blood gets rid of toxins, but it's not designed to have this many toxins thrown at it. And you have these girls who are basically destroying themselves, and boys as well nowadays, destroying themselves for later on in life.
And I love to use the word, they're disruptors. So, you know, when we talk about endocannabinoids and, you know, they ignite our receptors, the chemical preservatives and some of the toxins that are found in skincare products and household cleaning products, they disrupt receptors. For instance, they disrupt our endocrine receptors, disruptors. So they're disrupting our systems. And I was taught many years ago by an elderly lady who, God bless her, she taught me so much. And one of the things she said to me is that you really need to look at everything that you're putting on your skin, because we've got so many different systems within our body. It can just have a knock-on effect. So I've realized through my own skincare products, I've probably given myself this adenomyosis. My fibroids on my ovaries are probably something to do with the chemical toxins that have been in my diet and in my skincare. And Oliver, I have an 11-year-old and a 14-year-old daughters. So it's so important for me that I get them to ignite their endocannabinoid system in the use of CBD skincare, because I don't want them having to go through the chronic pain that I'm going through. And all of the products that they use, I mean, I drive them insane. Sometimes they're like, Mum, just let me live my life. But I'm like, everything causes, this is terrible, just use this.
But what is important to realize is over the last 60 years, as beauty care has become more and more and more prevalent, skin issues have become more and more and more prevalent, which is kind of mental when you think about, you know, like adult acne wasn't really a thing in the 1950s. You know, I mean, you look at pictures of your grandparents who weren't wearing makeup and none of them have spots. I mean, like, it's got to mean something, right? I mean, just use your eyes. You know, that's why I'm a big fan of what you're doing. I'm a big fan of your functional logic, because too many people out there don't, and it's dangerous in the grand scheme of things. Is, you know, like, act first, think later is very, very, very dangerous in this world.
It really is. And I do. I love the skincare side of things. And like I said, the skin is the largest organ of the body. I mean, when people hail the gut as the second brain, I'd like to say that the skin is the third, because it's such a vast network of chemical messaging. There's so much more going on there. And it's our first response to a lot of things, how we think and feel as well. It works in conjunction with the brain. So it just blows my mind that, you know, using cannabinoid, broad spectrum cannabinoid extracts with organic essential oils, but it's all very important. We're very much organic ingredients, because what is the point of putting our love, time and energy into making a formula for your health and well-being, but then we're lacing it with chemical preservatives? I don't know where the allergens have come from. I don't know whether they're organic I just can't have that in a product, especially when I'm making it for people like my daughters, you know?
It's also like fillers and things which your body find hard to digest. So let's just take, for example, let's go back into edibles. Let's take Barocca. All right. I think it works something like 6% of a Barocca is functional and 94% is just fillers. And that filler, fine, it's not a lot of it, but things like bicarb, which you don't really eat on a daily basis. You might think you do, but you don't. It shouldn't be in anything. And if you go and get a what's it called? If you go and get a like a full blood test, they will check your counts of bicarbonate in your blood, and if it's above a certain amount or below a certain amount, it means you're
look at all of those.
It's something which is a very fragile ecosystem in your body, and you're just loading yourself up with it, and you probably shouldn't be. And there are loads of things but there are questions which people don't know. We're not educated to realize that we're getting completely destroyed out there by this world. And the thought leaders, unfortunately, like to argue against us. So when you turn around and say skin is like the third most important organ in the body, I agree with that. There's this logic which came out a few years ago that when the skin gets injured, CB3 receptors emerge. Okay, so you have CB1 receptors in your brain and central nervous system, CB2 receptors, immune system, muscular system, CB3 receptors emerge in times of trauma. Most of those areas of trauma will be like around the skin. Now, no one's actually done research into whether or not the skin is all a CB3 receptor. As in, that research hasn't been done. But I reckon if you were to do it and you were to actually analyze all the skin, you'll see they're all there anyway. Like they're probably there. But you have to look for something and ask the question in order to get the answer. And if the answer, if you look for something, chances are you'll find it. That's what always happens as well. So if you could.
There was a Hungary doctor, a female doctor in the early days when I first started, and it was her studies that I followed where she was the one that found the cannabinoid receptors located on the skin surface cells. I mean, just look at us, skin, largest organ of the body. On every skin surface cell, there is a cannabinoid receptor. I mean, it just blows my mind. Whereas when we're talking about edibles, what have you eaten that day? What essential fatty acids have you have you had in your diet that day that's going to be able to allow to carry the cannabinoids? How much of the cannabinoids stay prevalent or exist after all the stomach acids have gone through it? There's so much that we don't know, skin-wise and ingesting edible-wise. But one thing's for sure, we are supposed to have these plants and these cannabinoids in our body, because otherwise we just would not have the receptors and the intake for them all over us, throughout, everywhere, and it's
1,000,000%.
And going back to skin, everything on the skin, I see, this is my opinion, people can argue with me, but everything on the skin is a warning manifestation that something is going on inside, In my early days, the word disease, I want to split that word. I want to put it back to dis-ease, because that's what it's all about. When we have disease in the body is now no longer at ease. Cannabinoids work to get us back into ease, And if we can do that by just reacting with some little receptors on our skin that then help my high function anxiety.
It's less invasive as well.
It's people are on different medicines. How is the CBD going to interact with this? How this, that? Police
Another
officers,
thing
NHS
is topically, we have also found that, I want to say, immunity is not the wrong word, but tolerance to cannabinoids topically is less, you can call it, it doesn't build up as quickly. So I've got buddies who consume cannabinoids, and every month they have to change their doses or change their product in order to kind of still get the same effect. People build up tolerances to internal medication. I haven't seen anyone who's built up a tolerance to topicals. It's almost as if
you must have consistency, though. That's the only thing. Sorry to cut you out.
No. I completely agree with. But I'm saying your head roller, they could buy your head roller every week on, week out, and it could be made exactly the same way, and they're always going to get function from it.
I like to see it as our endocannabinoid system is as unique to us as our fingerprint. The future for cannabinoids and medicine, I'd like to see it as a pinprick on the thumb. Will tell us where we're deficient in what cannabinoids. A bespoke drop will be made, or a bespoke topical, bespoke to you with all the cannabinoids you need. My CBN is too low, I need some more. My THCA is a bit high, we need to bring that down. I really believe that is the future for cannabis medicine, just like a diabetes test, I suppose. And I wouldn't that just
cannabinoid scanning?
Yeah, I just think it'd be great, because I do think if cannabinoids is all about getting us into homeostasis,
Status and the balance,
getting us into a balanced place, well, then when we interact with cannabinoids with our body, what's going to work for you won't work for me. What works for me won't work for someone else.
Because
so
we have different problems.
We have different problems. We have different ailments. We have different issues. We've eaten different stuff that day. Our environment's different. I suffer with chronic stress. You might be depressed. It's very, very different. But what I love about cannabinoids, and I teach it to my children like this. Do you know the game Pac-Man, where the little thing goes around to like eat the ghost? I see it as you use cannabinoids and the cannabinoids go, ooh, 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 la, la, where do we need to go? Oh, she's dealing with high function anxiety. Let's go over to the nervous system and try to bring some balance there and calm her down. If someone can't sleep, really hyperactiveness going on. Oh, where do we need to go? Let's go here. And, I just always see it. That's how I explain it.
Yeah, Pac-Man goes to where Pac-Man needs to go to. It's almost like it's got intelligence, right? It's almost like it's...
Definitely. And there's chemical messaging happening with all these systems. You've got to remember the endocannabinoid system is the largest receptor system in our bodies. That's a big job that it has there. And with all these other systems going straight into it, it's unbelievable. Well, temperature, pain, bodily functions. There's so many things that it looks after. And coming from a family of nurses and doctors, how none of them have done any training on this. It doesn't get taught in NHS medicine.
Taught, right?
No,
so there is one place apparently.
Oh, tell me.
There's one place which actually teaches, and I found this out recently. Cambridge University have started teaching about cannabis.
This is amazing.
Cambridge University have started teaching all of their medical students about cannabis. And I met someone recently. He was like, yeah, my daughter's at Cambridge. She came back recently with a big textbook on the endocannabinoid system, and she's learning all about cannabis. I was like, what? It's like, yes, I was like, I think it's the only medical school I've heard of in the UK who are pushing it. And she's like a fifth year. It's not even like a first year thing. She's like
Cambridge University are incredible, and they were on the forefront of it early. So back in 2019, I was on the board of CPAS. This was a cannabis medical, they held an event at Cambridge University. And that was phenomenal. I mean, that grassroots people coming together. But Cambridge, that doesn't shock me that it's them. And
I just love the fact that they are the creme de la creme, the cream of the crop, and they
just
are
need
the
Oxford
ones
now to follow through.
That's it. You need Oxford, and then you get the couple of the other. Look, you've got like Kings and LSE and whatever. They're all like linked in with Project 21, aren't they? But it's not really being. And yes, it's being taught because it's right on top of them. But it's not like the average medical student is still, in England, still being not pushed away from cannabis, but they're still being taught things like cannabis causes psychosis. That is still on the curriculum. So it's kind of nice to know that, the thought leaders in this space, the Cambridges, please God, the Oxfords, please God, the Durhams, et cetera, carrying on from there, are all going to turn around and, start promoting this world as valuable education. And then hopefully once they start paying attention to cannabinoids, they can start paying attention to everything else, Shiona, because it's not just about the singular. As you know, Graces has been built up off of a multitude of so many different education spheres, almost placed on top of each other to create this brand which actually thinks about its end consumer. And, the more and more I work in this world and the more I want space for cannabidology in modern medicine, I want herbology there as well. I want aromatherapy there as well. I want these other functional forms of non-invasive therapeutics.
They've been casted out as alternative therapies, but this is what our ancestors and our cultures started. This is how I was taught, all my Irish family.
This is what existed pre-1930s. Literally, this is exactly what happened. It's just like you had one person in the family who knew exactly what to make. He would go for a walk in the forest, find your bits, come back, make your medicine. You weren't sick anymore. Done.
One thing that is very important, though, I suppose, before we wrap up at Graces London, talking about multidimensional aspect, is that what I have noticed being in the industry since 2015-16 is that CBD is not a cure. This is what's become a big, massive thing. You've had your money, greed and power corporations that have got on it in the last 3 years, and it's very much CBD for this, CBD for that. And I've had so many people that have actually had bad times with CBD. And what happens then is that they don't want to try it. So, it's like they have a bad reaction with it, or they don't like the trust or transparency of the brand.
Or the product is just shit, or it does nothing, or they spend 65 quid on something and then they get left in the dark and they're like, you know what, screw this industry. And they tarnish everyone with the same brush.
It's not a cure. CBD is very much yes, consistency. Yes, using cannabinoids on the skin is amazing. And it is about consistency. You need to constantly be engaging with that endocannabinoid system. Otherwise, the lights go out and you're just going to feel how you felt. But we still need to find out why you're having that imbalance, why the cannabinoids need to be put on your skin to bring you back to balance, why you need to ingest.
Why was there a problem in the first place? Because the problem wasn't because you didn't have CBD. You never had CBD.
You never
CBD
had it.
has been your way of coping with your problem.
Yeah.
But if you don't fix the leaking pipe, you know, and
This
you just
is
put
important.
a bucket underneath it, then
and it's
you're
sleep.
still going to have a flood.
It's sleep, it's water, it's stress. There's so many different things. So I suppose here at Grace's London, the last 2 years and going forward with some projects and plans that we've got coming up, it's very much about showing people CBD is not a cure. You know, it's just one tool out of a massive box of well-being and wellness tools that you actually need. I have to do EFT techniques every morning for my high function anxiety. You know, I use the CBD oil, yes, every day as a face oil because I know I'm engaging with my endocannabinoid system. So therefore, when I do get my period, my pain's going to be relatively a lot lower because I've been engaging with that system. It's manageable. Yes, it doesn't completely get rid of it.
But you've made a lot of other changes in your life as well in order to also make your ailments manageable.
This is what happens. So when CBD starts to work for you, or you have a product that does work for you, really start to then look at your gut. What are you eating? Look at your sleep. Look, are you drinking enough water? So we always say, like, it's a multi-dimensional aspect of looking at beauty. And that's when we look at essential oils. I know you mentioned about the essential oils and crystals. They have healing frequencies. That's it.
I
People
said it
can
in a
argue with
positive
me
way.
all day. No, not you.
No.
I'm not having a go at you.
No, I like it. And to be honest with you, for people who, look, we're all different people. We all have our likes and our dislikes. And at the end of the day, for people who want something which is true to what they like, Grace's is perfect. And at the end of the day, thought has gone into it. It might be thought that one agrees with or thought that one disagrees with, but you still have to respect the fact that thought has gone into it.
Yeah.
And you know, that's what I do. Look, I love everything about your product. All right, I don't understand the crystal bit, but I like it. And I know that out there is someone who does understand it, and that product will be 10 times more valuable for them. Why? Because that stone does do something for them. That crystal does do something. I just don't get that, but that doesn't make it not right. The same way that loads of people don't get cannabis doesn't make it not right. You know?
Exactly. Yeah. 100%.
Last
I'm
question.
completely with you.
What's the plan for Grace's London now? What can people watch out for? How can people get in contact with you? You know, you're a incredible brain, and even better personality. I'm pretty sure everyone's going to want to reach out to you, potentially become part of your sample group, buy your products, support your brand. How do people get hold of you? Take the last 3 minutes just to kind of pitch yourself and just give them all the information you need.
Well, listen, head over to the website. There's lots of information on there. So that's www.graceslondon.com. You can also, we're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. It's just at Grace's London. Stepping into the next year with Grace's London is incredibly exciting. All the feedback, product analysis we've had over the last 6 years, I wish that I'd put it into more of a structured format to collate this information. So the next year is very much doing so. In October, we're going to start some product trials and really just look at individual. So the first one we're looking at is women's health, period pain. I'm going to use the product. We've got a great, fantastic team, functional medicine doctor, have an osteopath, chronic pain specialist. I've just met some amazing, fabulous people, Oliver, over the last 6 years, and we all have a common cause of just trying to change the daily quality of life for people.
And they've met you.
Honestly, I'm super
and they've
excited.
met someone amazing in you. Don't you forget that, though.
Oh,
Seriously.
you.
Just bear in mind that however valuable they are to you, you are just as valuable to them. Never forget that. Sorry, but carry on.
But it's honestly, so I just feel incredibly lucky that this is my job. So in October, we've hooked up with the Hello Beautiful Foundation, which is a cancer charity. They're also called Hello Love. They're in Bloomsbury Square. And we're going to be having running seminars and workshops with these people, trying to generate how much does it help topically? Does it get rid of your period pain? Does it help for migraine? Does it help for hangovers? As someone asked me this morning. So many different questions, Oliver. And I want to get it properly done in a product trial analysis where I can really collate this information and just help spread the information and really just get it out there to people. You know?
But that encyclopedia you're going to create is going to be so valuable. It goes back into this idea of hidden knowledge that I've said so many times. It's, you know, all of those stories which you just can't get from the average person.
if people listen to the patients, the people that actually deal with it, the people that have been taking and using these plants, and we're talking about for well-being or even medicinally, you know, if
It's the
people
only
really,
market research that matters, isn't it?
it really is. It really is. The you know, the proof is in the pudding. Is that what's the saying? I think that's backwards. I think I've done it a bit Irish there.
No, I think the proof is in the pudding.
Is that it?
Yeah, that is it.
It did sound right to me.
What would it be in Irish? The pudding's in the proof.
God only knows. I've loved
Proof is
talking
in
with you today.
It's been such a good day, and honestly, you're an incredible asset in this industry. And you know, like I meant it when I say, like, everyone you've got around you is so lucky to have you around them. And you know, this combination of different knowledge and this accumulation of knowledge which you're going to do over the next few months, I think it's going to bring wonders to the industry. I really appreciate you giving up your Thursday night to join us on the show. It really has been an incredible hour. You are a formidable person, and yeah, I definitely want to get you back on here as and when you want. If you like end up with some great information from your
Yes.
research, and we do that. But either way, it's been an incredible show. Thank you everyone who's joined us for the 88 episodes, and yeah, like, God bless, good luck, and I'll see you guys all next week.
Thank you